Hello and good evening. I'm Hafiz Marzukhi. You are watching Consider This. This is the show where we want you to consider and then reconsider the news of the day. In recent months, Malaysian football has made significant strides, showcasing remarkable performance against formidable opponents. Although, of course, if we look at our campaign ended early in the group stage during the recent AFC Asian Cup, including a thrilling 3-3 draw against Asian giants South Korea. There are still detractors against the growth and the performance of Harimau Malaya. Tonight, we want to explore what is the way forward and how we can continuously elevate Malaysian football to greater heights, maybe to even reach the ever elusive World Cup qualification. And tonight, we are speaking to sports analyst Christopher Raj. He has also been involved with the local football governance infrastructure and was also a former sports journalist. Chris, thanks so much for joining us. First of all, let me ask you the question. We have the all-important Oman World Cup qualifier match coming up soon, towards the end of March. But in your opinion, looking at our recent AFC Asian Cup performance and also looking into our standings in the World Cup qualifying, what is the state of the current Malaysian football?
Thank you, Hafiz. It's great to see you again. Thank you for having me on the show. Yes, I think from the Asian Cup, now moving towards the World Cup and Asian Cup qualifiers 2027 in Saudi. Definitely two important matches we have during the Ramadan month. On the 21st, away to Oman. Then on the 26th of March, we play home. We host Oman in Kuala Lumpur. Um, the team reports, I believe, in the next couple of days for centralized training, and then they leave on the 17th to Oman to play in the competition. In saying that, definitely it's going to be a challenging match for Malaysia, I must say, with Oman, having a new head coach coming on board after their dismissal performance in Qatar in the Asian Cup, and training during the fasting month, playing during the fasting month. There's always a challenge. It's never going to be easy, but I guess this is where Coach Kim Pangun and his technical team will prepare the team, as extensive as possible. And we also must understand that while the rest of the teams have gone back to training, a lot of our teams are still on pre-season because the new calendar for the Malaysian Football League kicks off in May to suit the AFC calendar for 2024 to 2025 season. So definitely it's an uphill battle, but I think with the players that have been called up by Coach Kim Pangun and the team, definitely a good performance is expected out of the team, Hafiz. But like I said, it's always building from what's happened in Asian Cup. They had a good run against South Korea. It was a great match against Bahrain, unfortunately losing the last minute goal. And of course, the first game, players learning from the weaknesses and the mistake. And being in Asian Cup after 40 odd years is an experience for all the players. And hopefully, that experience of playing in the Asian Cup helps the team and the players to move forward to the next level.
Yes, of course, Chris, if we were to look at the current FIFA rankings of Malaysia, we are somewhat on an upward trajectory if we were to compare over the past years or actually even past 2 years.
Yeah.
We believe we are in the regions of the 130 regions. In fact, the current FIFA ranking, where I just checked, we are at 132. But how do we bring it further up? How do we elevate? How do we create players that will continuously improve the Malaysian squad?
Well, I think there are the two things that we need to look at. Number one is the second tier team, which is the under 23. And just to give an example, for example, Uzbekistan that played in the Asian Cup in Qatar, they fielded about 10 players who were under 23 years old to play with the seniors. In April, when Doha hosts the final rounds of the under 23 championship, which is the final qualification for the Paris Olympics, these 10 players will feature for Uzbekistan. Now,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of teams are sending the younger Jensen of the players to competition so they get dual experience in both international and junior. Now, for us to move up the ranks and to have that kind of performance in the Asian level, first before even looking at the World Cup is that the second tier and the third tier team must be as good as the first tier team. I mean, the quality of the players must be able to match. The under 23 players must have the attitude, the mindset, the skill, the talent, the ability to move up to the ranks of the first tier team. So ever there's a change going to happen because of injury or suspension or due to some kind of issues, the 23s are ever ready to fill in. And we can see now the plenty of the under 23 players been called up for this national team camp, which means Coach Kim Pangun is already preparing just not for qualifiers but also for the future. Because in December, Malaysia will play in the AFF Mitsubishi Cup, right?
Mm-hmm.
And at the same period of time, you also have the Asian Champions League ACL, which will feature JDT and Selangor, which means majority or core players of the national team will not be able to play for the Mitsubishi Cup, which
Mm-hmm.
means we need to fill the 23-year-olds to play. So this is where the transaction or the transition is happening between the senior team and the second team. And that's the reason, even in the coaching setup, somehow FAM has maintained the experienced coaches to be with the 23, and they are also assisting Coach Kim Pangun in the senior team. So the transfer of knowledge, transfer of high performance, and all those football ecosystem is done in a mutual understanding between the senior team and the junior team, Hafiz.
Yes, Chris, if we were to look and you were talking about two very important squads in any nations contesting in a football tournament. But I want to go a step further and ask you about what are the key aspects of, you know, Malaysian football development, because we are to get the right players to go into the under 23 squad, in the junior squad, we also need a very secure and solid pipeline of talents. How do we
Yeah.
achieve that?
So for a start, obviously we need a very we have a, or we can emphasize or enhance a structured development plan from the under 8 to the 18-year-olds. Of course, in the national level, we have the Piala Belia,
Mhm.
and then you have the Piala President for the age group tournaments. And then FAM kicked off the Liga Super Rimau about 3 or 4 years ago. And the Liga Super Rimau today sees almost about 8 to 12, 8 to 10,000 players of the eights and the tens playing week in, week out in a lot of the football academies, yeah, all over Malaysia. And then, of course, you have the local competition, which involves the school. Now, the best talented school PLDs under the Academy Moktadari, the cream de la cream,
Mhm.
moved to Gambang to train on a full-time basis, since they are 14s, the 13, 14, 15, right up to their 17-year-olds. So there are about 400 odd players in Gambang in Academy Moktadari who are training day in, day out and playing in the Piala Bila, Piala President as well. In saying that, there are also a lot of private international schools, private academies. Yeah, in KL alone, there are almost about 78 private academies in Kuala Lumpur that's doing professional coaching. So a lot of this ecosystem, Hafiz, it helps Malaysian football because then you have a bigger base, you have more resources, you are able to find the talent for the national team. But of course, it takes time. For example, if you are looking for a striker, for example, you
Mm.
might have 500 strikers coming through the system,
Yeah.
but out of the 500, perhaps only one or two can really make it as a number nine or number 10,
Mm.
a fantastic striker in the team. Sometimes even out of the 300 or 500, you find the skill and the talent is not up to par for them to make it to the national team. And when I was managing the under 17, I could see this. We used to have a lot of players coming in for selection, but unfortunately the numbers are not great. So which mean goes to show that at junior level, what is needed really is a strong competitive football matches. They have to play day in, day out in competitive games, not just on weekends, not 3 times a week, but
Mhm.
day in, day out. Now, I give you an example. Under 16 striker from England, by the time he comes to play for the national team in under 16, he would have played competitively close to about 175 games.
Mm. That's a lot.
175 game. By the time he comes to under 16 national team. Now we take the same data. By the time a under 16 play in Malaysia comes to play for national team, he would have played maybe 60 games.
That's less than half.
Yes. So this shows that, your touches with the ball, the skill with the ball, your endurance and everything else, it's all not up to the world or international level. And that's something that needs to be worked on. But in saying that, of course, today we have a lot more competition for players to play. AMD is taking their 16s and 17s to play in Europe, in Japan, in Korea. FM is sending their youth team for centralized training in Qatar, in Saudi, in Uzbekistan, so hopefully in years to come, we can see the 14s, 15s from these private academies and also from Academy Moqtadari graduating to play at the international level. And I think secondly, more importantly, is also the production of top class coaches. you
Mm-hmm.
know at the end of the day, they play a big role in molding the players. You need coaches to have the right mindset, the right attitude, just not getting your qualification or your diploma, but also how you develop the player to a world class player.
Yeah. Yeah. So Chris, what is the very interesting things that you pointed out there? But what is the government's role in all of this? Because setting up it's no easy feat, right? Because some of it is like privately funded or privately brought up. What is the government's role in supporting this ecosystem?
I think the firstly, of course, the government plays a big role because the Academy Mokhtar Diary is funded by the government of Malaysia via MSN, Majlis Sukan Negara National Sports Council under NFDP. And I think that is already something that the government is doing. Secondly, I think, Hafiz, it is just not in football. If I might just move a little bit from football,
Yeah.
actually the ecosystem of Malaysian sports needs to be restructured.
Mm-hmm.
5 or 6 years ago, if you look at it, every week Malaysians used to celebrate either Lee Chong Wei winning something, Nicole David. Every week there was celebration. We don't
Understand.
find that happening now because obviously the talent are not coming out from the system. We even if somebody makes it to semi-final, we are celebrating as though they have won the finals. Now, the only way we can resolve this part of just not for football but overall for Malaysian sport is for the Ministry of Youth and Sport to work very closely with MOE, Ministry of Education, because when you want to find the talent, when you want to improve sports, you have to go back to schools because that is where champions are made. You can't make champions when they are 15 and 16. The champions are found, developed, trained when they're in school. So if there's something that the KBS or ministry can do is to restructure the Malaysian School Sports Council and enforce more competitive matches and put in more qualified coaches in schools to produce the champions. That is something that they can do.
Yeah, and that brings me to another point that we should touch on, which is of course in achieving consistency and bringing back and it's good that you bring up other sports into this, Chris, because technically all sports are usually developed with the same principles, maybe different strategies, but the same principles. What kind of investments? Of course, you were talking about the schools bringing the talents up for to a certain level, but what kind of investments do we need to keep our peaking talents or talents who are performing already at their highest level even further? What kind of investments do we need for them?
Obviously, financial investment is one of the bigger things that's very much needed, Hafiz. One is financial investment. Secondly is the coaching investment. Coaches play a big role. When many of us were in school and representing the school in any sport, our coaches came from a very qualified background. They would have played hockey or badminton for school.
Mm-hmm.
When I represented my school in badminton and also hockey, my physical PE teacher played for state. So when they share, they train you, they know what they're talking about. But
Yeah.
today, a lot of the coaches are just coming on with a degree in sports science or a degree in sports management. They
Mm-hmm.
never played the sport or they were not former athletes. Now, I'll go back just a little bit. Yeah. In
Mm-hmm.
Australia, it is a government policy in all Australian school to have a swimming pool, number one. Number two, all swimming instructors are either an Olympian or a state champion. Now that tells you why Australia produces world champion at every Olympic or any world champ. That is a government policy. Now, if we want to be world beaters, we need to have people like, for example, like Brian Nicholas Lomas, our world diver, in schools. You need to have Dato Pandalela in schools, right? You need to have some of the former state players in schools to produce the champion. So to do that, you need very strong financial investment. Now, that financial investment is for infrastructure, rebuilding of football fields. A lot of schools today, Hafiz, have lost the football field. Some
Mhm.
schools only have basketball courts. Yeah, and people ask usually why kids don't play football. There are just no fields anymore. So there are private academies. So parents have to pay these private academies big amount of money for kids to be interested in the game. So I'm looking at two. One is financial investment and also human development, and that is part of the coaching system, Hafiz.
Okay, other than the infrastructure and also coaches and bringing up talents, of course, there's another portion of this, and especially when we are talking about football, Malaysian fans are the most passionate bunch of
Yes,
fans. You know, our
that goes without saying. A lot of the success that the national team has had, it's impossible to achieve those things without the support of the fans who come to the stadium. Fans who travel for the Asian Cup.
yeah,
And to see the country playing after 40 odd years.
yeah.
I think yes, they are definitely the backbone of the football industry for sure.
Yeah. So what role do they play in this? Because we do know there are certain. I wouldn't paint the whole fan base as an impatient bunch, but there are a loud section, I would say, of impatient bunch within the whole football fans, or Malaysian football fans. What, in your opinion, what is the fans' role in helping us grow and elevate our football levels?
Of course, with due respect to all the fans out there, everybody wants to see a successful national team, a team that goes to the World Cup, or make it to certain rounds or round of 16 in the Asian Cup, etc. But there are a lot of some of the issues that surrounds Malaysian football cannot be resolved immediately. It takes time. It takes time, to see players progressing and getting there. But of course, today when you look at there's so much of football. Hafiz, today fans can watch from the English Premier League to all the leagues in the world. There's so much information about football available on social media. There's so much of data that's available to the fans. So we are always criticized, compared to what's happening around us or outside Malaysia. Why can't we do this, or why can't we do that? Why can't we do what Japan is doing or Korea is doing? Now, they are what works for the Malaysian football DNA is what they have adopted from the F30 strategic plans, and that's what I think FAM is obviously trying to do from the technical perspective. And for now, whatever Kim Pangun wants, whatever support he needs, FAM is providing to ensure, and we can see that success. The kind of matches he has played, the data that's coming out. When before Kim Pangun arrived in Malaysia, we were ranked 158 in the world. Today we are ranked 132 in the span of 3 years or so. So there are movements, but eventually to get to the highest level, we need the entire ecosystem to come together to support the push to make it to the world arena.
Yes, of course, Chris. Other than that, our coach Kim Pan-gon also needs to draw talents from the local leagues. What role
Yes.
do you see our Malaysian Football League, or rather the Super League ecosystem? How do they play into feeding the national team with the necessary talents for us to keep elevating our football levels?
A lot of things that is done with the national team preparation and the league, private Malaysian Football League, Hafiz. There's always a continuous discussion that happens. Both parties have good working relationship, and that's the reason whenever Kim Pangun wants additional training days or extra training days, and we MFL the Malaysian Football League assist FAM in changing those calendars to give the team more time to prepare, especially when they're calling in players for centralized training. And that is one. Secondly, in terms of the talent identification, MFL provides the data to FAM from the data partner on the number of minutes and how the matches are being played, which are the new players emerging from the league. Number three, Kim Pangun and his team, they make that serious effort literally every week to watch local matches. And the coach has been traveling throughout Malaysia. I think last year, Coach Kim would have seen between 80 to 90 games before the national training camp started, and to identify the talents and the players he's looking at. So both entities, Malaysian Football League and FAM, they have a good working relationship to support the national team initiatives.
Yeah, Chris, we can speak about football for hours, but in the last few minutes that we have, what is the thing or the issue or the matter that should be prioritized by those who govern Malaysian football if we ever want to reach that elusive World Cup? What needs to be prioritized?
I think what needs to be prioritized is the kind of work that's being done at the grassroots development office, because I think more money, more time, human development, putting the top coaches to work at the grassroots is far, far more important than them working at the pro level. Because if we want to have a base of 15 to 20,000 players, not just depending on Academy Moktadari throughout Malaysia, Sabah, Sarawak, all parts of Malaysia, to get all Malaysians to play this game and produce the kind of level we're talking about, we need really government initiatives, infra investment to take place, and hopefully with all those support that comes in term of developing a football nation, we probably can see Malaysia in the World Cup maybe in another 10 years to come or something like that.
Yeah, hopefully that rings true. Thank you so much, Christopher Raj, for your time. That was Christopher Raj, a sports analyst, and that wraps up Consider This for tonight. I'm Hafiz Marzukhi. Thanks for watching, and good night.